Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I'm going to be doing another similar games episode. And I've chosen a game, well, because I've been playing a little bit recently, and that's Castlevania. And what I realized is that there's a version, well, not a version, but there's a game that is very similar to it on the SEGA Master System. I didn't know about this game for a long time. I mean, it's something I just kind of discovered recently. And I was quite amazed that a game like that actually existed. I do have like the Castlevania on Nintendo, and got Castlevania 2 on Nintendo, and Castlevania 3 on Nintendo. But I don't have the one on the Sega. So unfortunately I have to emulate, because I looked into it and it's not cheap. I mean, it's pretty expensive. It's called Master of Darkness, and it's got a similar plot to Castlevania. I mean, you walk around, you gotta literally hunt down a vampire and kill him. It's not Dracula though, so they created a whole different story. It takes place in London, whereas Castlevania obviously takes place in Transylvania. You're going after Dracula, you're Simon Belmont. So there is there's some differences, but there's a lot of similarities. So I'm just gonna jump into the gameplay. I'm doing this a little bit differently though, because I'm actually going to be using some live stream playing that I recorded earlier to create this video. So, it might not be the best as far as, the video being completely smooth, because it is live stream, but you'll get the gist of the game and you'll see how they are very similar to each other. So let's get to the games. Of course, we're in the first level here. Doesn't matter what level you're in with this game, they're all pretty difficult. Oh, I know there's a trick there to jump over. I learned that from Kevin, the Happy Beard Games Kevin. He did a video showing some of the tricks and tips and all that stuff. This level is really just getting through and generating as many hearts as you can. Really good starter level. But as you can see, it's fairly simple. Of course, I am playing this on an emulator, so the response time isn't going to be as great as it would be if I was playing it on the natural Nintendo. The controller I'm using is a USB NES controller. Well, not technically, it's a NES style controller. It's not made by Nintendo, but good enough. It's better than trying to use some of the other controllers out there that don't really mimic the Nintendo style. So obviously with this game you want to try and get all the hearts you can. You want to get as many points as you can, because points actually do matter in this game. I think, what was it, 40,000 points or something, you get an extra man, an extra Simon Belmont. That was just a cross there, it kills everything on the screen. These guys are kind of annoying. I don't know why, but I think the stopwatch is one of my least favorite weapons. The holy water, on the other hand, probably one of my most favorites. I find it does the most amount of damage. I love the music in this game too. I think that's one of my favorite things, well, one of them anyways, of the Castlevania series. It's the music. Oh, there's the axe, you need that. Good thing about this game is they usually provide you with the weapons needed That's the numeral 2, which allows you to shoot 2 of your weapons at once. And that makes it handy to kill the bat. I mean, this is like an easy level. Nothing complicated about it. But then again, you expect that from most video games. The first level is always going to be the easiest. And here's our map of Castle Dracula. As you can see, you just got to work your way through it. Now they equip you with the cross weapon, which is like a boomerang. And it's weird because it is a boomerang, but it's not a boomerang, because if you catch it, you still lose a heart. That's just a little secret there. So it costs you a heart to use the boomerang, but if you catch the boomerang, you don't get your heart back. Isn't that the whole point of a boomerang? It comes back, you catch it, you get to use it again. I guess they figured, that doesn't apply in this game. That cross is awesome, but I find that most of the time when you use it, there's only like maybe one thing on the screen, or maybe 2, and the rest are just like whatever. So this one, you just gotta throw all your holy waters at it, and you pretty much kill it. Holy waters and whip it. There we go. And then sound effects on that is kind of annoying too. Okay, so this is Master of Darkness on the SEGA Master System. Yeah, I mean, it gives you the whole story. There's the whole story behind it, and similar to the Dracula story, you've got to go after a vampire, which is essentially what you're doing. Let's see here. All right. Yep, so you just got to read it all. I'm too lazy for that right now. All right. So you can see right off the bat, I mean, you got this guy kind of, it's like a Simon Belmont type of guy. He's in a suit, though. He looks a little bit more sophisticated. Sophisticated. That's what you want to call it. Now, I like how they changed things up, though. They didn't just go for a direct, let's just rip off Castlevania. They went for more of like, let's make it in London. Let's add these buildings. And that boat thing going back and forth. That's pretty cool. Now you don't have a whip like in Castlevania. You have this like I don't know what that is, like a stick or something, a cane. You start off with a knife. It's similar with Castlevania too, where you have to like build up your weapons, and then if you die, you start off with back to the knife. That's your beginning weapon. Because that's like the cross. When you get the cross in Castlevania, blows everything up off the field. You got those dogs running by. Similar stuff. Like there's wolves and stuff in Castlevania that run like that. These floating heads, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but they just seem to be there. They're just these masks. I don't have the manual, so I'm sure if I dug around the internet, I could probably find the manual somewhere, PDF of it or something, but it's giving me that same problem I have with Castlevania, getting down the staircases. But overall, I think the graphics on this are amazing. Like, this doesn't feel like an 8-bit game. This feels more like a 16-bit. I'm surprised I'm not playing this on a Genesis, you know what I mean? But I mean, overall, I mean, this is pretty cool, and it feels like I'm playing Castlevania. If I only had a Sega Master System, I'd be glad that this game existed, and I'd be able to still kind of play Castlevania. I don't know if it's better or worse. The sound effects aren't as good. Or at least the music isn't as good. I think Castlevania on the Nintendo has some of the best music out of a lot of the games for the Nintendo. These guys just kind of float there. They don't do nothing. Just float. Yeah, the music in this, I don't, it's not to my liking. It's kind of repetitive and boring. Kind of has that eerie tone to it, just like in Castlevania. Another one gripe I do have is that the weapons, well, at least so far, the weapons that I've grabbed here aren't as fulfilling as the whip. So I just got a sub-weapon. Just like in Castlevania, you can get all those sub-weapons like the holy water and the little cross thing you can throw. And, you know, it's the same idea. And you use it the same way. You push up, and there you go. That's a bomb instead of holy water. But yeah, I mean, no, like I was saying, my only gripe, though, is that the weapon typically isn't as good as the whip in Castlevania because it just doesn't have the reach. I like in Castlevania when you get your third whip and then the reach is really far. You can stand back. You can't do that in this one. Because, well, I guess with the cane thing, whatever that is, you can. Lots of these little boats to get around. Oh, these little zombie gooey. Not sure what that is. I got that now. Oh, it's like a sword. Looks like I'm thrusting like a... Oh. Now the sound effects there kind of reminded me of, what is it, Dragon Warrior, I think? I don't know. It sounds like more of a Nintendo style sound to it. But as you can see, I mean, a lot of the stuff at the top there, it's all pretty much the same idea. You know, instead of hearts, it's these little circular things. I mean, the layout's very, very similar. And again, the backgrounds are kind of confusing sometimes. You don't know if you can actually, you know, step on some of these things, or if they're going to be a blockade or whatever. Much like in Castlevania, you think you could step on something, and it turns out it's just part of the background, and you die. Doesn't feel like he has that. Whoa! That, go away! Why are you coming after me? Doesn't feel like he has that kind of jump back. That, well, there it is there, but it's prominent, I guess. In Castlevania, one of the worst things you can do is be, you know, be near a pit or something where you fall, and this gun kind of doesn't do anything. And then you get hit by something, and it just like throws you back. I'm gonna die, aren't I? Okay. Looks like I have to go down here. Overall, though, well, I do like this game. I think it's really fun, and it's just basically Castlevania. I mean, they follow a lot of the same ideas, and graphics are similar. I'd say as far as graphics are going, though, this feels and kind of looks a little more like Castlevania 2. I think maybe it's just because the whole boat thing, and I don't know. I don't know if you actually can talk to people like in Castlevania 2. It's not really that style. It really mimics more of the first Castlevania. Those bats are annoying. Kind of like the Medusa heads. I don't know if there's anything as annoying as the Medusa heads in this game, but I hear that this game is supposed to be easier than Castlevania, so did I go the wrong way again? And it seems like there's a lot of dead ends. Castlevania doesn't really do that too often. I mean, you can always reach your destination and be running into these dead ends. Castlevania 2 and 3 you can, I think. At least I know 2 anyways. You can go in the wrong way and end up somewhere you don't want to be there. The character, I don't know. The suit thing makes him look kind of like he's going to a disco or something. He's wearing, you know, like that blue leisure suit or something. Not quite like a James Bond style, like that. I don't know. definitely have to give this game a little bit more attention and play a little bit more and see how far I can get in this. And I really like it. It's really fun. I looked online for copies of this. It's not exactly the cheapest game. That's an annoying sound. Sounds like the computer just died on me. But yeah, I mean, it pretty much just goes on from here, and it's all in London and all the different areas in London. You're not going after Dracula. There's no Dracula. It's another vampire. But very much inspired. So you can see how both those games are very similar. I mean, obviously when they created Master of Darkness, Castlevania was out. Master of Darkness was 92. Castlevania came out a lot earlier than that. So pretty much Sega was saying we have to have our own version of that game. It's pretty popular. A lot of people like it. But it was interesting the way they changed the setting around. They created a different vampire. They didn't just use Dracula. They could have used Dracula, but they're like, okay, well, we don't want to mimic too much of Castlevania, so they created a different vampire. Kind of like when, you know, Nosferatu, the movie, came out. They in 1920, 2021, they just renamed the vampire. They changed the location, and you know, but it's the same story. And this was kind of the same ideas, kind of the same story. That being said, I think the graphics were really well done in the Sega Master System version. They looked more like Genesis-style graphics to me than they did of like the typical 8-bit that you would see on a Nintendo. And I just felt that the gameplay, though, I felt the controls a little stiff on the Sega one, whereas Castlevania, the controls are a little more fluid. Now, that being said, there's a lot of areas in Castlevania where the jumps are tricky, the bounce backs happen a lot more often, you fall off of these cliffs, you die just because you missed the ladder. I mean, there's there's a lot of things that happen in Castlevania that are just absolutely frustrating. The Sega version, the Master of Darkness, I felt that the weapons weren't as good. I don't know, maybe just the ones that I found anyways. I didn't like the way the bomb went up and hit the ground like that. I liked the holy water in Castlevania. I didn't like his, starting thing, like the dagger or whatever it is. There's little things like that I didn't like. I think the whip in Castlevania is what sets it apart from a lot of other games. It's just the cool factor of just having that whip. I mean, that's like totally Indiana Jones right there. Rather than just giving him a sword like in a lot of most games, let's just give him the standard weapon. So I like the idea of the whip. I mean, that was always one of my favorite parts of Castlevania. And you kind of miss that in the Master of Darkness. But otherwise, I mean, the game's very fun, and I'm probably going to keep playing it and seeing how far I can get. I doubt I'll be able to complete it, but, I've never completed Castlevania either. Completed the third one, the second one, but I've never completed the first one. I'm kind of lying. I did on the Commodore 64, but the game was not as hard on the Commodore 64, I don't think. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. This is a series I like to do, and it's kind of tricky to find games that are similar. I mean, other than ones that are like direct copies of another game. And so, as I keep finding them, I'll keep making these videos. If you have any suggestions, throw them at me, leave some comments below, or hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe to my channel. Talk to you later.